This video is brought to you by GameMaker. And if you've ever wanted to get into game development, GameMaker does this really crazy thing where it's free. Just start making and only pay when you want to release your game to the world commercially.
It's fast, it's user-friendly, and there's easy-to-follow tutorials, plus a dedicated community to help answer even my questions. How make man jump? GameMaker is a 2D game engine that's helped bring some of yours and my favorite recent experiences to life, like UFO 50, Chicory, Anton Blast, and of course, Yahtzee's own Starstruck Vagabond.
Ooh, we talking about GameMaker? I love that program, it's so easy to use. As well as Starstruck Vagabond, I also used it to make all 12 projects in my 12 games in 12 months Dev Diary challenge. And I couldn't believe how much sex I got out of that. None. I got none at all. Which I couldn't believe.
So what are you waiting for? Head on over to the GameMaker link in the description and start cracking away today, because we want to play your game.
Yeah, looking through this list, I'm seeing one of you made Armpit Fart Tycoon, and I've got several questions for you.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Windbreakers podcast. I'm Yahtzee. I'm joined by Marty and Master Chief at the moment, as you can see.
That is not the
I'm
Master Chief.
nondescript green helmet man. How dare
That is
you?
not the Master Chief.
And this week, all anyone's talking about, besides, the world going to hell and India and Pakistan possibly setting off World War III, is the GTA 6 trailer that's been recently dropped.
Yahtzee, you said
Which
you
I
watched
haven't
it several times in a row.
No, I haven't watched it at all because I don't care. I only care if I'm trying to get a video out of like Summer Games Fest or something.
I've seen it. I've seen it multiple times.
Watch it.
Who needs hype? If it's not a playable demo, it doesn't tell you shit.
You know what? Sometimes it's called being excited because everything else in the world is fucking terrible. So maybe you just want to be excited for a little morsel of escapism on our horizon before we die our slow heat death in this universe.
That's how they get you.
Who's they? Rockstar?
GTA is part of the same machine that creates wars in the Middle East. It's the super ultra capitalist sector of the world.
This is I don't know if the sound's coming through my new microphone, but this is just a wank off for that one. Yeah.
But the point is, I haven't seen the GTA 6 trailer. Who cares? But Marty raised an interesting question over the weekend when we were discussing the topics for today's podcast. He asked, where are all the GTA imitators? Why is it GTA seems like the only crime sandbox franchise now? Because I remember back in the day when GTA 3 was big, there was tons of imitators, tons of knocker offers. Who remembers True Crime Streets of LA? LOL. Yeah. Who remembers the original Saints Row? Fucking Sleeping Dogs?
Yeah.
Mafia.
Mafia. I was going back through like the last few years of ZP and Fully Ramblomatic reviews and trying to find what the last open world crime sandbox was. And I extended it to the last open world game set in a contemporary city.
It would be Saints Row, right? The Saints Row reboot?
Saints Row, the reboot, yeah.
I mean, you could maybe also Gotham Knights. Maybe also...
I don't know. In my mind, like Spider-Man 2 isn't. Yeah. But yeah, it feels like it used to be like a genre du jour was, every year or every few years we'd get a GTA game. But in between that, we'd get a bunch of imitators, people trying to get a slice of that pie set in real cities like Chicago or London, set in fake made-up cities. But now we don't have that.
There was Watch Dogs Legion, I guess. That
was like 5 years ago.
Just put up. Really? It feels like less time.
Wow.
I think it was like 5 years ago. It was a long time ago.
It feels like more time for me.
Okay. So, is everyone just terrified of being in competition with GTA, especially considering that AAA game design, at least, is a much longer and more financially intensive experience these days, and people probably don't want to put the effort into something that's not going to be the safest possible bet.
Yes, like after GTA 5 was released, and it saw the success it did, especially with its online, it feils like developers have gone, we are never, ever going to be able to compete with the scale of what they've created, because it would cost way too much money, and our IP could not compete with Grand Theft Auto, so there's no point. We might as well go make a live service system trying to emulate their online systems, but within our IP. And I think that's the stance that a lot of the industry is taking.
Yeah, we've had games that have taken like a fraction of what Grand Theft Auto does and really try to lean into that. We've had the Payday series that is like, okay, we're just going to take the idea of like urban heists. And we're just going to do urban heists.
I'd say if you want to look in the indie sector, there's a few things that have sort of tried for like old style GTA crown. Schedule 1 springs to mind.
Yeah. There's another game called The Precinct that's doing like the top-down version of GTA, but I believe you play as a cop instead of a criminal.
Well, that's missing the whole point, isn't it?
And that's the online thing, right? Like, there's a huge online scene of like cops and robbers where people roleplay being cops in the online like RP space. So I think there's part of that there. There's clearly a market for it.
Yeah, but we have like open world games didn't go anywhere, right? Open world games are still here. It seems like they've pivoted more towards fantasy, I guess, in like a post Skyrim, Witcher kind of world.
Okay, I'm gonna sound academic now. I think open world games have leaned more towards proactive, where GTA at heart was a reactive open world. In that it invited you to go mad and do whatever you wanted, but it would push back. It would spawn police. The police would get more and more aggressive, and eventually you'd be fighting tanks. It was all about creating fun by testing the players, ability to react to what the way the game reacted to them and what they did. I mean, famously, like in GTA, you'd just be driving around and you'd try to get into a place, but then you'd accidentally rear hit a police car, and then you'd have to deal with having to escape the police for a few minutes, and that was part of the organic fun of traversing the GTA world. It was all about rather than just there being monsters everywhere, and you can just decide for yourself when you want to fight them and dip into little like nodules of game design, as in most Ubisoft style sandboxes or shit like Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League. That's just a completely hostile world. It was all about, creating a space that tries to get by without the player's input, and then the player being the thing that causes the chaos.
Yeah. That's interesting. Do you think why do you think that is? Do you think it's easier?
I don't know. I wonder if
complicated?
It's possibly part of that. I wonder if there's like also been a cultural shift. I mean, at the time when GTA was at its height, was a period when, distrust of the police didn't hit quite so close to home, I want to say.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm even curious about, this is going to be the first Grand Theft Auto proper since 2013, and I'm just very curious about, Rockstar's whole thing has been their ability to satirize and lampoon the American dream. And over the past 12 years, 13, once the game comes out next year, like, what can you do to surprise me at this point that we haven't seen on the news every fucking day? Like, what?
Yes, I've heard a lot of people say that GTA, or rather that modern society is sort of beyond satire, and shit like The Thick of It doesn't really work anymore.
Because, there was the thing of I saw a post saying the guys at The Onion must be like really scratching their heads to try and find something that feels more outlandish than what's actually happening currently.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think that's why when we see when I think of like the big urban open world games from the last few years, they go in a very different direction than Grand Theft Auto. They're stuff like Yakuza, which has just only grown in popularity recently, and it has come to America, with the Hawaiian set ones. But that feels very different. That's not a that's kind of like a tongue-in-cheek melodrama, and it's again not really vehicular based. And then the other big one recently, again in a sci-fi setting, was Cyberpunk. Like that was in terms of we've developed a city that you can drive around and that is a living, breathing world kind of thing. That seems like the one, but even that feels so different than what Grand Theft Auto did throughout the PS2. I think PS3, PS4 generation.
Yahtzee hit it on the head between reactive and proactive. I feel when I play Cyberpunk, I feel although it has reactive elements, it's a lot more proactive. You're walking into effectively small bubbles of plot and combat, and like handcrafted scenes for you to digest, rather than like in GTA where you are the arbiter of those things, and it's very like ludonarrative driven, rather than like walking into small bite-sized sections. And I think that's why Cyberpunk saw that success, right? Is because it's another level on top of, like, we think of GTA, I think of, if ostensibly, even though there are crazy elements and it's bombastic, a lot of realism, it's quite grounded. Unless you go into the online and you have flying cars and shit. But Cyberpunk really pushed it to another level where it had that other scale of interest with like what you can do and like the abilities you can get and stuff like that.
Yeah, I never get the sense in Cyberpunk that we're being tacitly encouraged to go nuts. Just steal cars and run over pedestrians and shoot up the cops.
Who's kind of carrying the flag of go nuts?
Go nuts.
I guess Just Cause used to, when Just Cause kind of existed. That felt
and
like
I think Saints Row did as well, but they've fallen.
I want to say maybe shit like Fortnite is where the go nuts sector is currently getting its jollies.
Yeah,
it's interesting. It's interesting when I think about traversal, because GTA was always about multi-vehicular traversal. Just Cause as well. That's another thing that a lot of the GTA clones had sort of as a matter of course. You'd always have to have the motorbikes and the cars and the boats, the helicopters. Never submarines. I always wanted a submarine and they never gave me one. But these days, traversal doesn't really do that. Like the multi-vehicular thing, it's most, if you're not on foot, you'll have like one vehicle that you can just summon whenever you want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of liked about GTA that you had to sort of improvise a way to get to places.
Yeah, and I like you grab whatever's close, and you're like, all right, it's going to be a little scooter now, or it's going to be a pickup truck, or it's going to be a sports car. Like whatever is close at hand is what I'm going to use.
Or you
forces the reactive systems, right?
Or you just fast travel everywhere, and like your average Ubisoft sandbox these days.
Yeah.
Traversal's a really fascinating one, because in a lot of open worlds, I think that is the crux of what makes or breaks them. I think, as you were saying, Yahtzee, the kind of forced nature of having to find different modes of transportation is one of the cornerstones of GTA. But also with Breath of the Wild, I couldn't imagine playing Breath of the Wild without being able to climb. Like, one, I don't think you could. Somebody please post completing Breath of the Wild without climbing once speedrun, please. But that is the traversal in combination with the glider and stuff like that. It's way more engaging. I think there's a reason why I never got a horse in Breath of the Wild on my first time playing, because that wasn't fun. Summoning the same horse to just run from A to B is boring, but using verticality in the glider, and that is a way I could discover new interesting things while engaging with the traversal systems. And with GTA, I think being forced to try and improvise your traversal method led you more into those reactive systems, so more chaos could be created, and it feels player driven, right?
Yeah, and Grand Theft Auto did a good job of making you want to get from point A to point B naturally. Not because your character felt good, but because it did feel good to, like Yahtzee said, get in a car and just cause some trouble. If you're like, I want to get to the other side of town, but I'll cause some trouble on the way and see what happens. And that's the same thing, the same kind of ethos when we talk about like the Spider-Man games, the modern Spider-Man games, where there's fast travel in it. I don't really use it because I literally like swinging from place to place. Yeah. And so, that's very different feeling than Grand Theft Auto, but I think it's the same kind of
I did extra punctuation a while back on traversal, and I was complaining about in games like Horizon and Skyrim and shit. It feels like all you're expected to do is just line yourself up with the direction indicator that leads towards the next objective and just press forwards. And it feels like games are just terrified of creating challenge for the player, especially in like Ubisoft style sandboxes. Any approach, fast travel as much as you want. Who cares? And GTA was always about forcing you to engage with its mechanics, and I feel like maybe that's part of it as well. These days, people, like developers, are more afraid to force the player to experience something rather than create a broad experience that could theoretically please everyone.
Yeah. I guess it's the difference between, they're all quote unquote sandboxes, but it feels like those Grand Theft Auto games you are playing in Rockstar's sandbox, whereas a lot of these other games, they try to give you ownership of the sandbox, which...
Well, that extends to the narrative as well, because as I previously said, what differentiates GTA from a lot of open world games is that in GTA, the plot, like the setting, couldn't care less if you live or die. Like the main character could disappear in an instant and nothing would change. Whereas every other game, it's all about you are the savior. You must save the world. You must liberate all the districts from the evil oppressor that has invaded us.
Far Cry is terrible for that.
Yeah, even Watch Dogs, it very much felt like you are like a superhero in a world. Whereas a lot of times in Grand Theft Auto, you just feel like a troublemaker, just like someone causing mischief.
And a lot of that is informed by gameplay because, as we say, if the gameplay is just you're in an open world and everything's hostile to you, then it makes sense that the focus of the plot would be on the world itself and you trying to make it, trying to save it from the hostiles.
Yeah. Yeah, and like that's something Rockstar deals with similarly in Red Dead, but in a very tonally in a very different. Like there's a somber look at what your place in the world is as Arthur, as a person at this pivotal moment in history.
I've always loved that Rockstar, despite being the AAA developer that they are, have always had this emphasis on character-based storytelling in which characters actually have arcs and the stories are actually about something. GTA 5 was about, the midlife crisis. Red Dead Redemption 2 was about, passing the torch on from a dying world to the world that comes after.
Yeah.
Yeah, GTA 4 very much about the myth of the American dream. And
yeah.
I think there's something to be said for GTA as well with simulating normacy, I think, or normality. That either of those are words. The idea of
funnily enough, both normalcy and normality are legitimate words.
There you go.
Okay, cool. Winner. So when I would play GTA before I could drive, when I was young, I would actively try and get cars and not locate the police or get alert them, and I would drive on the roads like I was a car, and I would practice. I wouldn't hit anyone. I'd stop at lights and I'd obey laws. And the game, and it goes back to the world is moving on without you. You are not the arbiter of this universe. Everyone's going about their day, and especially in games like GTA and Red Dead, you can watch the world unfold in front of you, and if you do not engage with the little scenes that you see play out to try and be a hook for you to engage in some combat or something, in Red Dead, if you don't save the person in the fight, they'll get killed, right? They'll die, and they will move on. The NPCs in the Grand Theft Auto and Red, just Rockstar's NPCs are some of the most complicated and true to life NPCs I've ever seen. They're wild.
Yeah, and part of that comes from. Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Yahtzee.
I was just reminded of how I was a kid when I played the demo for the original GTA, the top-down one, and when I got bored, I just tried to drive around the city as a normal motorist and tried to obey traffic laws. It was actually really hard.
Yeah,
because top-down, the controls weren't that great. So I'd keep, and visibility wasn't great, so I'd keep accidentally running into dudes.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know why, just out of nowhere, it made me think of the Assassin's Creed Brotherhood multiplayer mode, where you had to basically pretend to be an NPC to sort of sucker in the other players.
I love
thought that was a neat thing, which I guess that kind of feels like the kernel for what eventually became social deduction games. Maybe, or there's a link there between that and Among Us, right? There was that Spy, was it called Spy Party? There was a multiplayer game where you were like a sniper looking in the window of a party, and then other people were playing characters at the party, but there's also several dozen NPCs, and you try to trick the sniper into thinking you are an NPC by following around things. Yeah, that takes I guess kind of like a complicated web in order to do that.
So it's like GTA and Red Dead Redemption sort of create this environment where NPCs like go about their daily lives and invite you to sort of integrate into that.
Yeah.
And if you mess up their lives, then it pushes back against you. And that's where the fun comes in.
Yeah, and that's like real role playing, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Role play is an interesting point, right? Because when you play GTA 5, for example, you're playing 3 different characters who have 3 different perspectives on how to deal with situations, and you're usually led into what that character would do via the cutscenes. And I feel like it's quite easy to fall into that new role every time you switch. When you're playing Trevor, you feel like you can be a little bit more, chaotic, and it's kind of encouraged due to his voice lines. But it's interesting to see that in previous GTA games or GTA clones, as we'll call them, that you're usually playing one character, and in a lot of them I feel like they're quite bland characters. They're blank slates, so you can inform what they're going to be like. And I think I prefer it when my characters have a little bit for me to play off of, if that makes sense.
That's why I've always held up Saints Row as a really good series for getting you engaged with the main character, because it's sort of like a collaborative effort. I mean, you provide the character's appearance and looks and choose their voice pack, but the story, they do their own thing in the story. The story dictates their actions, so it feels like a collaboration, and you feel like more invested when your character does cool things, because you feel like that's your dude. Everyone I know who plays Saints Row games always recreates the same character for every Saints Row game they play. Every time they play a new sequel, they recreate.
So it feels like it's their character who's like almost like their Commander Shepard who's living through each game.
Yeah, and I feel like very few franchises bring that out in people.
Yeah, because even like when you look at like a character creation in like an Elder Scrolls game or something, like there's nothing like you guys both just played the Oblivion remake. Like you make a character, but your character's not really a character, right? They're kind of just a vessel that goes through the world and things happen at them.
In my case, a very clumsy vessel who keeps accidentally joining criminal organizations.
Oopsie. Yeah, it's funny that Grand Theft Auto with 3 did start with the silent protagonist, like Cloud, like or Claude, whatever his name was, like didn't really have a voice, didn't have an identity, and then from there on afterwards, it was always a very clear-cut identity with Ray Liotta's Tommy Vercetti to CJ to
They even brought back Claude in like GTA San Andreas purely to take the piss out of him.
Yeah.
See, I think an interesting point here is the difference between first and third person when characterizing a character. Like, if you can see them, does that affect how the player role plays in that sense, right? Like, if you're playing first person and all you're seeing is weapons, right? Are you going to be more encouraged to be violent, or does how visually, either through your own creation or the developers will, does that affect it?
I know, because as you say, when all you can see is your weapon, you feel like that's informing your character. I go out of my way to figure out what the sheath/holster button is in games like Oblivion and Skyrim, because even if it's just my fists up, I feel like my character just looks like they're about to deck someone.
They're ready.
If you were like walking downtown and you saw someone walking around like this, you'd like take a wide berth around them. Like, I don't want to talk to this person. Yeah. It's also when we talk about these games, kind of these clones seemingly either going away or splintering off, into different directions. So many of the franchises have fallen by the wayside, from Driver to Getaway to True Crime or anything. Mafia is coming back in August.
The Old Country, right?
The Old Country, but it's going to be a cheaper, like a budget game. I mean, like $50 compared to $60. And they said it's going to be linear. They said it's going to be a linear, narrative-driven game. So it's getting rid of kind of the open world from that Mafia's always had, and also kind of always been a little bad in favor of just a story.
Do we know how well Mafia 3 did?
I think it was a very expensive game that did not meet their expectations.
I'll go look up the Steam stats.
That kind of makes sense. I mean, I remember playing it. I remember like enjoying it at times.
So did I. I thought the story was pretty good. Yeah.
I remember thinking that it was sort of approaching the question of like race relations in the 60s in a slightly dodgy way.
Yeah.
Slightly sensationalistic way that I thought might have like rubbed some people up the wrong way.
Yeah. But like that would have been a time that would have made sense for a big game to try to take the it's going to be 13 years since Grand Theft Auto 5 by the time Grand Theft Auto 6 comes around. And in my mind, there hasn't been an open world crimey game that's even come close. Like even like tried to do it.
Is it possible GTA Online has sort of maintained the presence and scared everyone off?
Yes,
that's entirely possible. Yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned that at the head of the podcast. I think the gargantuan success of GTA Online, they've probably made more money online than they did the base game, in my opinion. Like, I don't have the stats to back that up.
I think that's absolutely right. I don't think there's any question of that at all. I think they made like a billion a year with that shit.
Mm-hmm.
It's unbelievable. And I think you cannot compete with that while having an incredibly engaging multi-character single player in a gorgeous, breathing open world from a decade and a half ago, right? You can't compete with that unless you invest more money than has ever been invested into a game ever, right? Because especially the online, they have been churning out expansions for it for free since its release. It's its own game, like it's its own fully fledged.
Oh yeah, that's why we haven't had.
Game.
That's why we haven't had. I think originally the plan was for like a single player DLC similar to the stuff like the Ballad of Gay Tony and Lost in the Damned. But we never got that because I think they just moved their resources over to multiplayer, which probably makes sense financially.
And I was really big, and I'm still waiting to see how they're going to package the multiplayer systems in GTA 6 because we haven't seen it. I could have bet my life on the fact that I thought GTA 6 was going to be ostensibly permanently online, and you do the narrative through it. They're going the character route, which is awesome, but I think there's going to be a more organic way of switching to an online character and just playing online via the current systems.
I think online is definitely where they're going to make the most money, but I think the single player is how you get people in the door, and that's how you get the prestige, and that's how you get the 10s and the games of the year and stuff. Is with that single player story, and this one seems like it's doing the same thing, like almost like a Bonnie and Clyde. You're going to play as two characters who are in a couple. My theory is that one of them is actually an FBI informant. And so you're
Natural born killers.
That'd be so cool.
Natural born killers. That's a good show too.
I'm trying to get back up my reviews now, trying to think what was the last game that I'd call a cathartic sandbox, where you're not necessarily like a hero. In most sandbox games, you're like the hero trying to save the world. But what was the last one where you would just like something like Infamous stroke prototype sort of area where you were the thing smashed like fucking everything up? Maybe like
Spider-Man count? Like, I mean, you're a good guy, but like
you're the good guy. I'm thinking of like where you were invited to sort of mess up the city, as in like GTA or Prototype or Infamous.
Yeah,
I'm thinking Prototype, maybe like Prototype 2 or towards Infamous. Because I think Second Son, you were more like the hero. Yeah, you were doing graffiti. Ooh, you're so cool, but you were the hero saving the day, right?
You were a punk hero.
Can we talk about Sunset Overdrive?
Can we not?
Okay, never mind. I thought we could talk. I thought this was a Sunset Overdrive safe space. But no, Sunset Overdrive definitely falls in that trend of, GTA kind of splintered off into a bunch of different types of clones, and there was a whole subgenre of superhero-based clones, which that got us Prototype, Infamous, the Arkham games, Spider-Man games, Sunset.
Yeah. I always made the case that when we talk about the superhero sandbox, what we really mean is the traversal-based sandbox. Because that was always the appeal for them, in my view, of being able to get around like a superhero. And maybe possibly the only difference between that and GTA was that your traversal power was like inherent rather than requiring you to steal a car or something.
Yeah. Is this a genre that requires a AAA budget? Because last week we talked about double A.
I would have said so. Because I remember saying ages ago in a review of, I think it was like Just Cause 3, that this is like basically the only thing AAA should be doing, because it's the only thing where AAA like budget, it really feels like a significant like necessity.
Yeah. I kind of feel similarly about first-person shooter campaigns. We'll talk about Doom another week, but I do want more big-budget summer blockbuster shooter campaigns because I feel like there's something that smaller budget indies can't deliver that here's $100 million to throw at the screen can.
Yeah. Well, we got to think about like how much, specifically talking about open world GTA adjacent games, how much they can make, right? Because the online sphere of GTA Online has messed a lot of things up because it's very like FOMO driven in the sense of, well, if all my friends are playing this one open world game online, am I going to want to go waste my time playing another one that's trying to emulate it? So like sales wise, we were talking about Mafia 3. The reviews aren't very good. It's got 57%, which is okay. It's like just about positive. But sold 1.6 million units, grossed 49 million on Steam alone. But then if we compare that to Saints Row, the same amount of positive reviews, but only sold 200,000 units on Steam and made 4 million. So it's horrifically a loss for Steam. So it's, do you waste your money and time making a block, because these games would cost hundreds of millions, right? Mm-hmm. To make them at the scale to compete with something like Grand Theft Auto. Do you make it and then potentially have a Saints Row reboot situation where it sells not even 250,000 copies and you lose a horrific amount of money? You might as well push towards other avenues.
I guess not. As we say, it feels like a lot of games these days make bank out of just focusing on one element of GTA. I've just finished going through my list of reviews looking for the last game I'd call cathartic sandboxing, and I happened upon Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, which is more Jet Set Radio imitating, but it certainly has that air of abandon that you want from the sort of thing I'm talking about.
Yeah. 100%. I do kind of feel... I think you might have hit something on the head, obviously without any way to prove this. You might have hit something on the head near the beginning, Yachts, in that I think the general public's desire for consumption has shifted away from crime. That's not to say Grand Theft Auto 6 is still going to sell boatloads, but that feels like more of an exception to the rule. Now it feels like, the open world games we get and that sell really well, we might not be crazy about them. We're getting 2 samurai games this year, in feudal Japan with Ghost of Yotai and Shadows. We have these like sort of sci-fi future-y things in Cyberpunk and in the Horizon games. We have big fantasy things like Elden Ring and historical epics like Kingdom Come
it's kind of all across culture, isn't it? I mean, we don't see many movies or TV shows that glorify the criminal life that we used to.
I guess
I brought up Natural Born Killers, which is a film that very much glorifies the criminal lifestyle. These days, you're more likely to get stuff like, Breaking Bad or The Sopranos, which is all about the gritty, serious side of how crime is actually really boring and ruins your life in the end.
Yeah. I mean, I think people still take the wrong lessons from stuff like that in the same way that people are like, I want to model my life after Tony Montana from Scarface. It's like, well, did you see the end of that movie? Doesn't end well for that man.
Well, he goes out looking cool. Let's go out looking cool.
He does have. Listen, we're in a society where people don't have enough friends, and he has a little friend. It's a little grenade.
His loved ones wouldn't have seen how he died, though. So
look how much cocaine he's got. Oh my God, mountains. Absolutely.
Walter White didn't go out looking cool. Fucking Tony Soprano didn't go out looking cool.
Yeah,
he go out like looking at it, like flicking his gaze over to camera for a second.
Yeah,
and then cut to black.
He was killed by fade to black. That's the worst way to go.
Shall we go to super chats?
Oh my God, super chats. Maybe they could figure out the mystery of what the fuck happened to all these Grand Theft Auto clones.
They certainly got a lot to say.
I believe in them.
Starting with a superb owner, member for 17 months in tip jar. Thank you very much. And then the superb owner comes back with $5 and says, I'm joining a bit late. Has anyone mentioned the sea shanties from Assassin's Creed Black Flag yet? Lol.
Good goof.
Referencing last week's podcast, of course. Hungriest of Hippos
gets $2. One was last week. I forgot about that. I thought the AA one was last week. Where does time go?
I know. I know. It's almost like we have to do one of these every week, and they all start to blur together after a while.
Awesome.
The Hungriest of Hippos gives $2. It says Schedule 1 is my favorite GTA clone, if it counts. I played that for a while. It certainly does feel like it has GTA vibes, but it is. Yeah. It also very strongly feels like indie work sim vibes as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's funny. That's really well.
Again, I kind of want to look at like Grand Theft Auto and look at the little elements of it that feel like it's gone places, and like indie work sims kind of feel like that.
Well, the whole Drug Empire thing is a thing in the online mode. It's an entire expansion. So
I haven't played much of that. I remember GTA Chinatown Wars had a sort of side gig, drug kingpin, business-based minigame. Yeah. Raven gives $5 and says, Week 4, having nothing to ask and nothing to contribute to the conversation. Wait, I lied. I miss when Saints Row games were good, circa Saints Row 2. You know, I'll go to bat for Saints Row 4, but it certainly did feel like a very different experience to the early Saints Row games.
Yeah, they leant hard into the absurdist comedy.
Yeah, it was much more the superhero sandbox, but it was absurdist comedy that made me laugh. And you know, I have very little time for attempts at comedy that don't make me laugh. And Saints Row made me laugh.
Whatever happened to Crackdown?
Crackdown 3 is what happened to Crackdown, and it was shite. Yes,
arguably there was only one good Crackdown. So,
but yeah, the first Crackdown was really good. I remember that. Yeah, I don't think the formula has aged well. I think it's a little bit too Xbox 360 for a lot of people.
Yeah, and again, we've gotten it was like a superhero power fantasy, but then we got like Batman and Spider-Man games that were really good, and so it's like, well, I'll just play the superhero I know.
Yeah, less generic.
Amma Yasser gives 25 AEDs and says, Hot take, I enjoyed Saints Row 3 and 4 way more than GTA series. I love the wackiness of those games so much, and GTA has good plots but not much else. Yeah, I've mentioned in previous videos, I think I talked about this in when I talked about where Saints Row went wrong in Extra Punctuation a while back. But GTA very deliberately leaned into a grittier direction from GTA 4 onwards, when previously it had been like the poster boy for wacky, fun catharsis times. And Saints Row managed to jump into that niche and turned it up to 11.
I like 3. Yeah. I like 3 and 4.
And that's what kind of, I guess that niche is now Fortnite. Is that
possibly?
What that is? Yeah.
The wacky catharsis fun. Because I like briefly played Fortnite after having left it behind for a few years, and they've added all kinds of shit, like vehicle mechanics and
everything,
like
everything you can possibly imagine.
Yeah, it's everything good.
Yes,
it's Roblox. It's just Roblox, but looks better basically now,
and still has absolutely zero identity of its own. Amayasa comes back with another 25 AEDs and says, by the way, I'm really getting into point-and-click games lately, and after playing The Beekeeper's Picnic, I'm currently enjoying Old Skies. Thanks for the rec. You're welcome, Amayasa. Whatever the fuck The Beekeeper's Picnic might be.
Yeah, I'm looking it up.
Play the Crimson Diamond.
Okay.
Oh, Beekeeper's Picnic is like, it's like a point-and-click game that came out like a month and a half ago.
Oh, look at that.
A Sherlockian adventure.
A superb owner gives $10, says, hello, casual viewers. Second Wind patron here. Friendly reminder, the Second Wind has set an example to the industry by taking measures to not lay off staff in response to dips in income. We all need to support this. That's right, we did. If you missed our Patreon update video recently, we took a bit of a hit thanks to the Trump economy. Thanks, Donald. But we're rallying. We're turning things around. Thanks to you guys.
Oh yeah,
the support that people came in after that video, we saw such a huge boost from people coming to support us. So thank you so much, guys. You're literally the reason why we can do this.
We're gonna keep making all this dumb garbage that you guys like.
Yeah, don't give any money to those giant bomb Johnny-come-latelys.
You should probably give money to those giant bombs.
Yeah, go support them as well.
We're the established ones now. Dr. Theo gives $5 and says, who do you think has the most plot armor? I'll give my choice. Isaac Clarke. Dude resisted the eldritch horror that turns people into monsters somehow. I'll tell you the one character I think has wins the all-time plot armor award. Harley Quinn in the DC universe.
Yeah.
Started out basically someone with no superpowers who just helped out the Joker. And now literally every game set in the DC universe has to have her by law.
Yeah.
Mine would be Booker DeWitt. I think Booker DeWitt has paradox time, like plot armor, and cannot and will not be stopped because of that. And I think that's I enjoyed that game. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's got plot armor.
Second nomination, BJ Blazkowicz in the Neo Wolfenstein games.
Yeah, when a guy get his head cut off in one of them, he got his head literally cut off.
When a dude can come back from being decapitated, now that's some solid fucking plot armor.
Yeah, good for them.
A Winged Potato goes 199 and says, it's a shame we never got another Sleeping Dogs. I think they were working on one for a while, weren't they? So as I remember.
So. I've heard rumors that they're revitalizing it.
Like, I believe, who was it? Like, Simu Liu, the actor who plays Shang-Chi in the MCU, said that, like, he's a huge fan of it and wants to bring it back. That feels like something that could come back. A true crime / Sleeping Dogs game.
In a unique sandbox from a culture we don't usually get to see in the West.
You wouldn't need to make it the everything sandbox. It could kind of feel like a tight, Yakuza open world where it's an open world, but it's focuses on like the details of a smaller space as opposed to the sprawl of a larger one.
A mechanical focus more on the hand-to-hand combat rather than just like nothing but guns and stuff like that. I think, there's an audience for it, I think.
Yeah.
Alex Armstrong gives $2. Says, think I'm the only one who likes Watch Dogs 1 best. I think you might not necessarily be alone, because I think every single Watch Dogs game plays to a vastly different audience.
I think that's true, yeah.
The first one's your sort of gritty, like Batman vigilante man. Second one's, hey, we're hip people who live in the Bay Area and deserve to die. And the third one is like 1984 in London. And you play literally whoever the fuck you like.
If they were to make a fourth one, where would you want? Like, what city feels? Even in any like open world game, what city feels like it's
India,
Japan?
Not because of the I just want to see a game set in that region, right? Like, I've seen lots of Japan, I've seen lots of Germany, I've seen America. I want to see some cultures and some environments that we. Like, imagine driving around in the streets of India. Crazy.
And running over like 500 people.
It's like a minigame in itself.
I'm going to be honest. After Clair Obscur, I got French fever.
Oh, you want to be in... You want to explore Gay Paris?
I do. What was it the Sabatier that was set in?
Yeah. Oh, dude, and when you liberate the regions, the color comes in. Oh, it's so good.
That was good.
But if you've got French fever, Marty, I've got an antibiotic for that. We're all given a sachet of them in England.
There literally is a French fever. It's called Paris syndrome. You heard of this, Marty? Paris syndrome?
I don't know. No, I don't think so.
This is thing largely suffered by Japanese tourists who are like who live in like an ultra clean society where everyone's raised to be ultra clean, and have also like been led to believe that Paris is like this huge cultural center for the world. So then they go to Paris to visit, and Paris is just filthy. It's one of the most disgustingly dirty cities in the world. And like these Japanese tourists experience such extreme culture shock that there have been cases where they've had to be airlifted out.
Incredible. I love it.
Paris like stinks of piss and shit.
I love Paris. I've been to Paris multiple times. I love it. Yes. I'm used to I can't smell anything, and I lived for 10 years in San Francisco.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Tsunami Dusha with his $20 and no comment comes in again. Thank you very much, Tsunami Dusha. And then Peter Parker SL gives $5. Says, looking beyond GTA 6, what game would you be more excited to hear Rockstar work on next? I'm still holding out hope for Bully 2. Well, going by their current rate, you'll be waiting till like fucking 2035 for that.
I just want them to listen. You could keep making one big game every 8 years, but please also just cut some of that money for little small teams to make things every once in a while. Like I want that from all of these AAA developers, but it's just, I don't know. Are we just like
it's intoxicating, right?
Yeah.
Tent poles, not crucifixions. That's what we want. Tent poles that support all the little people that want to live in the tent.
Yeah, I want that. Don't crucify us.
Rufus Omega gives £2 and says Ananta is GTA but anime gacha RPG coming soon in quotes.
Yeah, that trailer was making the rounds a little while ago. As the number one, I guess, co-number one fan of Dokavi alongside Casey, I assume every one of these games is fake. As someone who got excited about Dokavi as the future of video games and then has seen nothing from it in the past several years, I just assume every game is fake now.
Also, it's a gacha game, so its mechanics are going to be centered around making you engage with that rather than engage with its systems and world. So,
but this one will be different,
as they all say.
This one's the different one.
Dokavi.
Alex Armstrong gives $2 and says, "Are Far Cry games GTA clones? They have side stuff." No, Far Cry games are Far Cry games. Far Cry games are the Ubisoft sandbox.
Mm-hmm. It's they have arguably what birthed a lot of the open world stuff, though. Like I was talking to Alex Hutchinson in DevHeads, who directed Far Cry 4, and he mentioned about Breath of the Wild and how they saw its release and were like, wait, that's the Far Cry formula. They're doing our thing.
You climb to the top of a tower and then it puts things on the map.
Yeah, I think I said Far Cry 3 was sort of the tone setter for a lot of open world games that came after it.
Oh yes.
Yeah, I would say it's right up there with Grand Theft Auto in terms of of that era sort of having an influence on what came afterwards.
Yeah.
Scale and influence for sure.
Hawker Bridging gives $4.99 and says, "Probably missed it live, but I feel the costs of development has risen too much GTA clones to be feasible for most to make." Boy, that was an adventure of a sentence, wasn't it? SR was the best clone. He finishes.
Yeah, I mean, too much.
We have Yakuza, so
which is
they're able to do something right. Granted, that is like one of the most.
Though, right?
It's not the same scale, and it's incredibly economical by reusing things. Like that is.
Yeah.
They eat their leftovers there in a really smart way.
Yeah.
Peter Parker SL gives $5. Says, "Not to do much for GTA 4 or 5, but I miss the chaos cheat codes brought to GTA. I still have muscle memory to summon guns, a jet, and a jetpack in San Andreas. I kind of miss cheat codes generally, personally."
I was just about to say the exact sentence. It's some of my fondest memories of GTA are not some of the story beats but some of the ludic moments where I would cheat in a flying car and just cruise around the city and then use that as a tool to create chaos. And that would make me feel like some kind of weird wizard god as I come down from the skies, mow someone down, and then just like disappear. Imagine trying to explain that to your loved ones. Oh yeah, Lucy died by this weird car that came down. It was Harry Potter.
It was funny too because I would always do this. I would like rush through, especially the PS2 ones. I would rush through the campaigns, and then I would do that. I would treat that as my post game. I had some friends who all they would do is play the campaign to the point where the city was unlocked, and then they would just play it with code. Like they would never see the end of the story. They would not care about any of that stuff. They probably put like 50, 100 hours into the game, and they were fine with it. So. Yeah, that feels like the essence of like sandboxy in a way that a lot of those games can't quite match.
Alex Armstrong gives $2 and says, "Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom feel like Nintendo doing Zelda-ish GTA." I wouldn't say so, Alex Armstrong. I mean, it was more like Zelda doing like very early Zelda, but in 3D.
Yeah, with Far Cry kind of tints.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think you've reminded me how we used to call all open world games GTA clones. Remember that? Sure. Remember those heady days?
Yeah. It feels like before there's a lot of them. The easy thing to do is to just point at the original one. I guess we still do that with Metroidvanias and Souls-likes.
Yeah, and Souls-likes. Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah.
Alex Armstrong gives $2 and says, "Should we consider Yakuza games Sega's GTA clones?" I want to say Yakuza comes more out of Shenmue than GTA.
Yes, 100%. Like the Yakuza games don't have the same sort of reactive. When you were talking about a reactive world and the kind of the chaos of a sandbox.
I mean, it would. I mean, I think feel differently if in the Yakuza game you could go up and punch literally anyone out in the street, but you can't.
No, you kind of have to be a good person in these games, even if you're someone who's literally a Yakuza member.
I guess Street Fighter 6 might be more GTA like in that
the
respect.
Little open world thing, yeah.
Dawid Robaskevich gives $28. Sorry for horribly mispronouncing your name, probably. The Mafia series kind of exist between being a GTA clone but also trying to do their own thing. Didn't the first game on PC have the player fined if they drove over the speed limit or run a red light? That was a wild idea. Yeah, I remember that. That was another case of, I guess they were trying to emphasize hiding in plain sight. Trying to like integrate into this NPC society so that you can be a dirty crim. Yeah. You can be more effectively be a dirty crim.
Yeah. I like the term dirty crim. That's pretty good. It's funny because when was the first Mafia take place? That was like a period piece, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The first Mafia. When was the first Mafia set? It was like
the 30s,
like the 20s or 30s. Yeah.
It was early 20th century, and then Mafia 2 was around the Second World War period because the main character had just come back from the war.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then 3 was in the 60s.
60s, yeah. It's just funny. It's funny when games have these open world drivable maps, but they're set in a time when cars were just slower. Like I remember LA Noire, like your car was just slow, which was something I was like, okay, this is like, I applaud your adherence to realism, but also this is not fun. I want to run as fast as my dudes can.
This is A to B traversal.
Yeah.
Gildon Yetic gives $5 and says, when Ultima Online came out, that's all EA wanted Origin to make. World of Warcraft, that's what happened to Blizzard. GTA Online probably killed GTA. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the release schedule, you have Rockstar bringing out basically a game a year, and then GTA Online, and then nothing until Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah. And then look at how many times Grand Theft Auto's been re-released on platforms. You know, that was a PS3 360 game at launch.
Yeah, I know.
It's the same with Bethesda.
I remember playing the original GTA 5 on a PS3 offline because I hadn't had my internet set up. I actually bought a disc from a shop and played it offline on my PS3. Remember those days?
How old is that?
Incredible.
I kind of sympathize with it in a way. Like, if you make a gargantuan game, right, that is like one of the best selling games of all time, and then make more money than God, would you want to then be like, okay, let's rush to get the next one out in the next few years? Or do you want to be like, okay, let's take our time, use this money responsibly, which is what I think Rockstar do, and then be like, we'll release some other game like Red Dead 2 and stuff in between, but make the next, what I'm hoping, make sure that the next game in the franchise pushes this genre forward like as much as it can, and use that money to do that, right?
You know what's incredible is that entire sentence until you said Rockstar could have been Bethesda. That could have been post.
I was going to say Valve. I was going to say
that could be Valve.
Yeah, but the difference between Rockstar and Bethesda is that Rockstar have released some good games in between releasing their massive game. Bethesda have not.
Has to publish some good ones.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
Yeah, just to develop them. The other teams are great. Valve, that's an interesting, like, I think we've talked about that, but like the paralysis that comes from such a monumental success, like following up a generation defining thing is incredibly hard. Whether you're an indie or a AAA.
It's happening in indie. It's happening in indie.
We've talked before about how success can be paralyzing, but yeah, since you ask, if I had a massive hit and made all the money in the world, I guess I wouldn't want to stop making games because it's how I unwind. It's my hobby.
Yeah, but I think that hunger would go away, right?
Well, maybe, but I'd certainly want to concentrate on making the next one something I was really creatively invested in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If money was no longer an object.
Yeah, and we're seeing that with stuff like Hollow Knight and the follow-up to Stardew Valley and everything.
Yeah. Jewel Rogue is €2 and says, my fave GTA clone is Shakedown Hawaii.
That was like a top-down. That was a top-down one that looked like the original GTAs.
Yeah, much more in line with the original GTA, yes.
Yeah.
Cool.
Mr. Arms and Legs gives $5 and says, I can't believe we don't have a space GTA. Star Wars Outlaws really could have been it. If you say so. I mean, it would have to have gotten over the hump, the handicap of being developed by Ubisoft. Oh, snap.
Oh, he did it! I can't believe he did it.
Also, I think
what's that closest equivalent to
Space,
sci-fi GTA? Do you think?
Starfield.
No.
Can you commit crimes in that?
Well, you can, but in sort of a Skyrim-y way.
Yeah.
There aren't any, and I think there's a reason for that, and that's because traversal for space is boring. And in a lot of games, it's intentionally boring, like in, what's it called? You like it, Yahtzee, the space...
Hardship.
Elite Dangerous.
Hardship. Fuckers.
I like that game. Elite Dangerous, right? It's intentionally made difficult to move from point A to point B. It makes that traversal interesting by applying friction, right?
It's more contemplative.
But most gamers don't want that. They want to get to the next place. So a lot of space traversal becomes A-B travel. It's like, I want to go from here to here, you do it. And it's either a slow crawl or instantaneous with hyperdrive. Those things are boring, and then you'd have to make a planet, right? To be
that's
sizable.
why in Star Trek Vagabond I based around playing like the simplest possible mini game where you just have to dodge incoming asteroids or just piss off and clean your ship because there's literally no point worrying about it.
And that's why
that friction is what makes it fun.
There you go.
And that's why traversal in Cyberpunk just feels like you're just in a car. There's nothing like really sci-fi about getting from point A to point B in that. It's nothing like GTA, but I think Outer Wilds is one of the games that makes going from a planet to planet interesting because it just compacts the universe into such a small thing. Like, it is not going for realism. It is like, there's 9 celestial bodies. You can get to each of them in a minute. But it still feels like you are traveling quite a bit.
It's slight spoilers for that game. So plug your ears. I'll do a thumbs up when you can listen again. Jess is playing that for the first time. And I was going to go to bed while she was playing it, but I got my chair and scooched in and was waiting, and I was timing it because I was waiting for the sun, and I was like, just keep going. I was like, look at the sun, look at the sun, look at the sun.
The very first rotation.
Yeah, the first time she got to see the sun explode. It was really satisfying to be a.
He must have been quite infuriated by you.
Yeah. Yeah, it was the first time she did. Why I was really invested with her looking at the sun is because the first time she died, she flew into the sun, so she didn't understand why.
It was just I flew into the sun.
That game's got such a great loop, and really intriguing of the loop is the mystery. But if you kill yourself, which is really common for the first time, because the flying's really difficult, you don't fully understand why the game's looping,
or if you're underground. Like, if you're underground, you're just right? I'm dead. I don't know why that happened.
What a game. There you go, people. Come back.
Alex Armstrong gives $5. Has been playing Retro Wave World, an 80s GTA clone, but early access and very little content since only 2 guys work on it. Yet I enjoy it as a synthwave fan. Okay.
Yeah, I feel like that's always, I have a lot of fondness for Vice City. I think that kind of that 80s. Oh wow, this is really
that's a lot for 2 guys. I assume they've got some contractors in.
Yeah. Unless they're not really updating it too much.
Witticism gives $5 and says, where does Maneater fit into this conversation? I think that's my vote for our most recent prototype type. That's got to be quite a few years old now. And as I recall, it wasn't that much fun. Because there wasn't enough pushback. You just eat dudes and eat more dudes, and the game was kind of helpless to stop you.
Yeah, I think it was a neat idea. Like, just like a shark that's causing a big old ruckus. And I don't think the execution was all that great.
I miss the prototype.
I felt bad for all the dudes being eaten by the shark.
Who else being eaten by the dudes?
I know. Jules Rowe gives €10 and says, fuck it, have money. Why, thank you very much, Jules Rowe.
Is that like have gun, will travel? Fuck it, have money.
There you go. BK Grilla gives $5 and says, GTA has always felt like 2 separate games glued together. The open world was a sandbox, but the missions often felt more like Ghost Train rides. I think I've made that point in the past. The GTA model from GTA 4 onwards was you'd mess around doing your cathartic thing, and then once you'd gotten it out of your system, you'd go to one of the plot missions. The game was like, all right, you've had your fun. Now you toe the fucking line. and then you just go from like a strict objective to strict objective for a while, and then it lets you out to have some more fun once you finished.
Yeah, I like the formula. I think it works.
Yeah, especially if you have control over when you want to, like, you kind of create your own pace in the game.
Yeah.
Red Dead Redemption as well. There's like, when I brought this up in like one of my extra punctuations or semi-rams, there's a clip of a moment where the player sees a game over screen, and underneath the game over it says, "You saddled the wrong horse." And that was the reason why they failed. They failed the mission.
A lot of people died in the Old West because they saddled the wrong horse.
Well, there you go.
Also, the open world as well in between those missions allows for player-driven downtime. Like, we've spoken about it together, Yahtzee. Like, the idea of having downtime in gameplay is unbelievably important for keeping player motivation steady. And that being player-driven, it's not forced, allows the player to keep their own pacing between missions, which is really cool.
Yeah, I remember saying when Spider-Man had all those shitty stealth missions where he plays Mary Jane, I was like, yeah, peaks and troughs, but the trough in a Spider-Man game is when you blow off the next mission to see how fast you can web swing down to the docks and back.
Yeah.
Hjort87 gives 20 Danish kroner and says, "Had a rough week. Please tell me it will be all right." It will be all right, Hjort87. You're in Denmark. What are you complaining about?
I'm sure people in Denmark also have problems.
We're in America.
It gets better. No matter how bad it gets better.
Yeah.
Unless it doesn't, in which case, that's fine. You're used to it being bad.
But then it will get better after, because it will get better. Right?
Sure. Well, it doesn't.
Yeah. Of course it will. It can only get better once after you get to a certain point. Mercenaries 1 and 2, says Vactor for $2. Mercenaries 1 and 2 felt very GTA, except all war.
I liked the Mercenary games. I thought they were a lot of fun.
Yeah, me too.
I thought that felt like a true, like, fuck it, sandbox game. I don't remember anything about the story in those games, and I don't think I ever cared about the story, but it was just fun to go around and cause mischief.
Yeah, and call down airstrikes and shit.
Yeah, we need more mischief simulators.
Yeah. Beneath 11111 gives 50 Swedish krona and says, "Marty Jamate, if Yahtzee owed you his life and offered to one time be your personal pastry chef, what would you have him bake, and will there be uniforms?"
Ooh, I'm a big cheesecake guy. You toss some cheesecakes in there.
I threw some cheesecakes out on the chat, so everyone could see my lovely cheesecakes. Yeah, there they are.
Those looked real good. I'm also a big cornbread fan. I don't know if you've ever fucked with cornbread.
Oh, I've never made cornbread. My wife has made cornbread occasionally when she makes a traditional American barbecue.
Yeah, it's great with barbecue. A little chili.
Well,
I'd have
pretty much everything in America is corn based because it grows so much corn. Nobody really knows what to do with all the corn. So now there's cornbread and corn flour and corn on the cob and corn everywhere you look.
Hell yeah.
I'd have you make egg custard tarts. I fuck with egg custard tarts.
You know, I've experimented with egg custard tarts. I made like mini apple pies, and I didn't have enough pastry to like make covers to cover them all. So I thought, okay, I'm going to go mad. I'm going to make some egg custard and pour it over the top of the remaining apple pies that don't have tops.
Yeah.
And I tried that out. It worked out pretty well, I thought.
That sounds great.
Although some of the apple sort of like broke surface, and I kind of wanted to. I more wanted a smooth, eggy custard top, but
you wanted that level, like top casing of it, rather than the little boulders of apple pointing out of the lava.
Didn't quite look appetizing enough. Never mind. Amr Yasser gives 25 AEDs and says, "An underrated trope is Adolf Hitler as final boss. Need more chances to kill the evilest man in history. Fun fact, Hitler is a boss fight in Persona 2. Also, Wolfenstein 3D. Amr Yasser, if you're into that."
In the American, I believe in the American version of Persona, to get around him clearly being Hitler, they give him sunglasses.
I remember that.
His character art has sunglasses.
Disguised.
Can't be
That's
Hitler
how we got to South America, so it's proven to work.
How many other games have Hitler as the final boss? So we've got 2.
Yeah. I haven't beat Claire Obscure yet, so he might be the final boss. I'm in Act 3. But,
you never know.
Yeah, he might be.
I'm about to finish Doom the Dark Ages. He might be the final boss of that.
He might
well,
be the
spoiler
titular
alert,
Dark.
he's not. I think I don't know if he's the final boss, but there's special missions in the Sniper Elite games where you can kill Hitler.
Yeah.
I've seen videos of them shooting his nuts off and stuff. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
The original Bionic Commando on the NES, I believe Hitler's the villain.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, because the bad guy's like...
How did we forget?
Imagine in the 3D one if you could have used your dead wife arm to kill Hitler. That'd feel good.
Oh, that'd be sick.
Yeah.
This is for the millions and her.
Millions and one.
Gildon Yetic gives $2. Oh, hang on, sorry, I missed one. Alex Armstrong gives $5 and says, off topic, Yahtzee, you berate Last of Us 2 for a miserable, depressing experience, yet Majora's Mask did it better for you. What makes the difference? Well, ultimately, Majora's Mask has a hopeful ending, I suppose. Last of Us 2 was just misery, and then everyone ends up being really miserable. I mean,
you're trying to combat the misery, right? In Majora's Mask, you're actively trying.
Whereas in The Last of Us, you were literally adding to the misery.
Yeah.
Although having brought that up, I'm reminded of something I once heard an American say about British comedy, which gave me pause for thought. Because in an American sitcom, like there's a trouble, there's a strife, the troubles escalate, things get farcical, and then the trouble is resolved by the end. In a British sitcom, something goes wrong. Something continues to go wrong. The main character manfully makes some attempt to improve their station in life, which goes horribly wrong. At the very end of the episode, something happens that means things are at their absolute worst point, and then the episode ends, and no lesson to learn.
Mm-hmm.
That's a British sitcom.
Yep.
Yeah.
Seinfeld is kind of that. Like that was the whole thing. Is like they're bad people, and that's why the series ended with like the four of them going to jail.
Yeah. Always Sunny is very, very much like that as well. Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start calling that my favorite British sitcom. Always Sunny.
Certainly,
I'm sure Philadelphia's name was taken from somewhere in England, right?
Potentially.
Philadelphia.
Got to be like old Philadelphia.
I can't think of a British city.
Unusually for American cities in that part of America, I don't think it is named after a British city.
Huh.
I mean, is Philadelphia part of New England?
I was thinking that exact. Fuck you.
I mean, I know New England isn't like an official.
Is Pennsylvania New England? No, it is part of the Middle Atlantic. Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania are the Middle Atlantic.
Yeah, because Jersey is named after an island in the English Channel, and of course, New York is named after York.
Old York. They should have called it Old Philadelphia.
Or Birmingham,
New Philadelphia.
Birmingham, Alabama, is named after Birmingham in the UK.
Birmingham.
At PAX, I got to see a booth of that. What is it? Last Days in Birmingham or whatever it's called. I can't remember the name. It's like a horror survival game set in a zombie game set in Birmingham, and it's.
Does that game? I thought a whole days in Birmingham. I thought people were questioning whether that game was real or not. Is it? I don't think it's called The Last Days.
Well, there was a booth for it at PAX, so
yeah, that goes going a long way for a prank.
I don't think it's called Last Days in Birmingham, whatever it is.
Gildon Yetic gives $2 and says, Promise Mascot Agency is the GTA clone we deserve.
Did you fuck with that at all, Yahtzee?
I'm not familiar with it, no.
That's the second game by the Paradise Killer developers. This is a micro open world game where you are a Yakuza member who is punished by being sent to this dead town full of where mascots, like failed mascots, get sent to die, and you have to start a mascot agency in this town. But the mascots are like really fucked up little things. I like it.
I hadn't heard of it, but I'm intrigued.
Yeah, that could be could be an old YT.
Yeah, perhaps we should YT that this week. We didn't have anything else lined up.
YT that be.
Colin McKenzie gives $4.99 and says nothing, trying to rip off Tsunami Douche's shtick there. And then Alex Armstrong gives $2 and says, speaking of Majora's Mask, it's themes versus Spiritfarer's themes. I think, well, kind of doing different things.
Yeah.
Spiritfarer is all about dealing with death, and Majora's Mask is all about trying to avoid it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, some of the stories kind of end with like helping a person come to terms with the fact that death is inevitable, but ultimately it's not inevitable because you are the one who
stops
said
it
death
with time shenanigans.
Yeah, but you like, the big old side quest where you Cafe and Anju, where you put the couple together, like they're ultimately happy dying as long as they could die together.
Aww.
Yeah.
Patton Pike gives $5. Says, last week's topic, Steamboat Chronicles PS2, the main love interest singing a tearful alternate version of the final song over the evil end hit hard.
I love it. I've heard nothing but good things about Steamboat Chronicles. Never played it.
I haven't played it myself. Abdel Corrales gives $5 and says, hello guys, GTA was the initial game that made me feel like let's just kill everything and see how long we can stay alive in a fun way.
Yeah, I would say arguably it's probably the game that's done that the best. Like it's the first and.
I mean, for a while, every GTA clone, when they were hot shit, like the wanted meter and the police response was like a standard feature.
Yeah, like that would be a fun. I understand you'd have to kind of like maybe just as a separate mode, but like if there was the modern Spider-Man games, if there would just be like increasingly intense layers of shit after Spider-Man, whether it's helicopters or tanks or monsters or supervillains or whatever, like just to see how long
he's after
how long you could futz around in New York before you get overwhelmed. I think would be fun.
Wasn't there a Spider-Man game that had like a hero meter and a menace meter? And the higher the menace meter, like Jonah Jameson. Was
that Spider-Man Ultimate?
That might have been because you played as both Spider-Man and Venom in that.
And
so
Venom.
I don't know if there was, yeah.
I don't think it was that because I haven't played that. I think it was one of the Amazing Spider-Man games actually. Like you had if you were let to the meter tick too much into the menace side, then the police would start coming after you.
Yeah.
Am I remembering that right?
It's hard for them to do that with like canonical heroes because they're supposed to be like quote unquote good. Like you could obviously do that in a prototype or an Infamous, but you'd need to pick like an anti-hero, I think.
Yeah.
For that to really. Also, Eric brought up a good example. We never mentioned Simpsons Hit and Run, which is just Grand Theft Auto Simpsons.
Which is an amazing game.
Which was a great game, yeah.
Small sandbox levels with crafted stories, and you would move between each other sandbox between the levels. I thought that was a great game.
And it's one of those fictional cities that people have like an actual relationship with, so it makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, there used to be like a Simpsons CD-ROM game that was like called Virtual Springfield.
Virtual Springfield, I remember that. Yeah,
there was because people have an investment in like figuring out the layout of Springfield. Like, I think when a series goes on in one setting long enough, that sort of happens naturally. People were making maps of like the Discworld as well, and maps of the main cities in the Discworld.
Yeah, I mean, people even do that with like the Red Letter Media studio of like trying to be like, this is where everything is located.
This is where things are. Yeah.
The thing that reminded me of Simpsons Hit and Run recently was that game from last year called Terry's Turbo Taxi or whatever. Remember that little indie game we played for Yahtzee Tries? Where like a little dude in a colorful city.
Yes, Tiny Terry's Turbo Trip.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. Shout out to Tiny Terry. I hope he's doing well.
Dimitri gives $10 Canadian and says, y'all mentioned Sleeping Dogs yet? Yes, we have, Dimitri. I've yet to play it due to my backlog, but I heard its combat engine made it stand out as a GTA-like and unfavorably drew comparisons to Arkham Asylum and Yakuza. Well, that'll happen when you have a
Sleeping Dog.
When you have a fisticuffs. Oh, well, since you ask.
There
he is. That's where my hand's been this whole time.
Aww, the sleepiest dog.
Ludo's underneath the chair, so I can't get a.
Oh, the sleepiest dogs.
And now I'm going to let him lie.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Betts gives $5 and says, game devs on the podcast, what would your response be to Jack's question from the Game Maker ad? How make man jump? Well, you apply a value to the upward movement stat and have like the game have a general gravity mechanic as well that gradually reduces that stat until it becomes negative.
Yeah, hard code it or just buy it off the asset store or hit a checkbox because you're using Unreal Engine, you lazy fuck.
I wouldn't trust any code I hadn't written myself, I gotta say.
Oh yeah, I guess that's why you bake all your goods, right? You don't trust any bakery
Yeah, I guess this is like a me thing because I just really like building stuff from the ground up. I like understanding how like an engine works because I've like built it from the bottom up. And I like baking my own treats. I like making millionaire's shortbread for myself.
That's not a bad.
That's where the satisfaction is because you're a hobbyist, right? That's the fun. Making stuff and having it, effectively. Run and operate as you want is great.
I mean, I thought about like buying one of those stand mixers that automatically knead the dough for you, but then I realized no, I don't want that because I want to knead the dough. I want to eat my bread, feeling like I've put work into this dough, and now it is bread.
Yeah, like the gluten content of it, like and how elastic it is due to how much you've kneaded, not the machine was on for 30 seconds longer than I think I should have.
Yeah, that's not having a hobby. That's called having a device.
Mm-hmm.
Peter Parker SL gives $10. Says almost forgot. Wanted to congratulate Jess and Jenna on excellent first episodes. Looking forward to more. Also, Web of Shadows had evil black suit versus good red suit Spider-Man Yahtzee. Yes, I know, but that wasn't what I was thinking of.
Web of Shadows. I forgot that.
Web of Shadows.
That's
the one that has the really crazy death animations, right?
What's the one that has like the slow motion, him walking on the roof that's become like a goof and like the camera?
And he's like looking down, he's all depressed.
Helicopters crashing.
Yeah, that's Web of Shadows. That's the intro. And I think if memory serves, they had fucking Moonlight Sonata playing over it as well.
Oh my God.
All right, Spider-Man, fucking get over it. If you haven't yet, check out Jess's first episode of Storycraft and Jenna's first episode of Game Arcadia. Both are excellent, and the Jessies, Jesse Galena for Jess and Jesse Schwab for Jenna's video.
So many J's in these series.
A lot of J's. The J crew. It's like a whole story of them all.
I'm just gratified the channel's less of a sausage fest.
We're gonna start. Yahtzee, you should change your name to Jahtzee.
Jahtzee,
so you could be part of the J crew.
Yeah,
you could be Jahtzee.
I've hung out with people with foreign accents that pronounce it like that.
Jahtzee. I like it.
Jahtzee.
It's silly, and I like it.
Susiguru 2000 gives €5 and says, "So Yachts will grow his own wheat next." No.
Once the apocalypse comes, yes, you will.
I mean, you might want to try Yachts because things are coming.
There's a middle ground, I mean, obviously, I buy flour at the store.
Sure.
But think about it, Yachts. You could plant the wheat in the middle ground. Think about
it. I still use a Cuisinart to mix the dough together. I just knead it myself.
Do you get dizzy every time you use it? A little queasy?
Yes, I get queasy with my Cuisinart. I mean, someone gave it to us at our wedding, and it's just nice to get some fucking use out of the thing, I suppose.
That's true.
Mr. Kneff gives $5 Canadian. It says, missed last week's topic, wanted to send love to Death's Door soundtrack. The swelling music, the first time wandering the Lost Cemetery locked me in.
Yeah, it's good.
It wasn't about... The topic wasn't about soundtracks. It was about specific moments in games where music really... forget it.
Well, we
moved on.
They gave the first time wandering around the Lost Cemetery was their moment. Also
that game came out like
with the $1.99.
Oh, thanks, Colin. That game came out like 4 years ago, which means maybe their next game. Maybe we'll hear about it soon. Acid Nerve. What you working on?
Let's go.
And also finally, a superb owner comes in with $5 and says, when it comes to the wide variety of niche British sitcoms that never came to the States, which Gundam do you think would be the most well-versed?
Great question. Thank you for asking. I think the Gun Tank, which is just a shittier version of the regular Gundam, but it's got two big old cannons on its side. I like that one. I don't understand a lot of the Gundams in the original one, if I'm being honest. Why don't they just always use the normal Gundam?
What's the name of the one, the green one that's always the grunt?
Zaku?
The grunt. The Zaku, that's the name. I think the Zaku would probably be the most well-versed, considering they're so prolific and they're mass-produced in such large quantities. They've probably got a lot of
Yahtzee's a big Zaku. Yahtzee's a big Zaku boy.
He's a Zaku stan for sure.
Yeah, absolute Zaku.
I enjoyed Zaku McCracken and the Alien Mindbenders.
Got him.
Zaku's. That was French. I don't have anything else.
All right. That's the end of the Super Chats. Thank you very much, always, to all our lovely viewers, especially the ones that give us dosh, for ensuring that Second Wing continues to be, quote, a thing, close quote.
Whose quote was that?
I don't know. I was Yahtzee Crowshaw, and I was joined by Jay and Marty, as always. Don't forget, content every day at Second Wind. We just keep churning it out. We never stop. For my stuff, I've got Fully Ramblomatic this week, which will be on the subject of the Oblivion remaster, a requested topic in many comments that I saw. And also Yahtzee Tries, my regular stream on Wednesday, which I guess will include that mascot game you brought up, possibly.
Yeah, Promise Mascot Agency.
And I've got a semi-ramblomatic coming out this week on Thursday, which you should all enjoy. You are all instructed to enjoy. And I think we will finally have the next Adventurers Night episode on Saturday, once everyone's got their fingers pulled out of their bum holes.
Yeah.
Is it Saturday or is it next week?
I think it's this. I think it's that we were just going to add another week on to give us more time.
I will confirm. I will confirm with Omar
to get the episode done. I'm pretty sure. That's my stuff. What else we got to plug?
Later on today, tune in for Hidden Gems. Crew's going to be back to normal time. Tomorrow, we'll have the rewind at the normal time. We'll be talking about Thunderbolts Asterix, the hit new movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Don't tell me Marvel's crossing over with Asterix now.
Oh, Asterix and Obelisk, those weird little Vikings. Oh, that was a good goof.
They weren't Vikings; they were Gauls.
I'll be honest, I'm not 100% sure what a Gaul is.
Gaul was the ancient Roman word for France.
Oh, I should like them then.
They were French. Yes, they were Roman era French people. Is
Gauls. That where the term the Gaul? You're like, oh, the Gaul, like the chutzpah. How could you?
No.
Okay. Hey, listen, I thought it might have. I was trying to bond with you based on etymology.
GAUL is what we're talking about.
And then, like we mentioned before, definitely check out Jess's episode of Storycraft and Jenna's episode of Game Arcadia. They're both wonderful. And then I should have later this week or over the weekend, I should have a little one-off video essay on Clara Obscure and why when a bunch of people are saying this is the game that's saving turn-based combat in JRPGs. And let me tell you, turn-based combat doesn't need saving. It's doing just fine.
Yeah.
So I have an essay.
I mean, Persona would like a word, I suppose.
Exactly. You never see him coming.
Jay, plug your stuff.
Oh, I'm on a weird Doom kick, apparently. So the next episode of Design Delve is going to be next Monday, and it's going to be on the topic of Doom: The Dark Ages. And also, we're futzing with the schedule a little bit for dev heads. Usually you would have one next week, but instead you're getting one this week. You're going to be seeing me, Mikey, and Tina going through Doom: The Dark Ages on Friday to see what Mikey thinks as a huge Doom fan. So we're going to see what he thinks. So I'm being saturated in it, which is a problem because I've got some things to say about that game.
You're just dripping in Doom. You're dripping in parries and glory kills.
Down, boy. Oh. Keep it in those pants.
I have. Don't worry. But yeah, that's me. Check out all the fun stuff we got here on Second Wind. We got a lot of cool stuff.
Heck yeah. All right. Well, until then, we'll say ta-ta for now. Don't forget to stick around today for Hidden Gems. Yes? Hidden Gems is today?
In Yams, 6 p.m. Central. Be there or be square. They're playing a game about building a haunted house that's different than the game that Yahtzee played about building a haunted house.
I was going to say, because that game kind of sucked.
This one's different. Maybe this one won't suck.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.